The question Trent has is, what is synodality? And I'm going to tell you, I actually watched a video on one of the Synod's YouTube channels a year ago, and it was a 3-minute video. And the question was, what is synodality? And I thought, okay, well, these people surely coming from this channel are going to answer it. And for 3 minutes they talked, and yet they didn't give an answer. So maybe you can help us all out, Father. What is synodality?
Someone attempting to approach the question fairly could come up with at least a couple of different possibilities. One possibility is that, and I'm trying to put a good face on this, right? That synodality is an official attempt on the part of the church to address what in too many cases has been a perception of the attitude of leadership and the exercise of authority characterized as pay, pray, and obey. If I had to compare synodality to that paradigm, what I would say is synodality is an attempt to start showing alternative dimensions of how authority in the church is expressed. And by authority, I don't simply mean telling people what to do. I mean the authority, for example, of teaching the truth. If we want to know something about mechanical engineering, we're going to go to authorities. So I think that one part of synodality is a global attempt to address the deep suspicion of and hostility toward authority that characterizes the contemporary era in which we live. And it is as if the church is saying, we're all in this together. And even the apostles gathered in council with one another under the regime of the Holy Spirit. So I would say this is the best way that I could describe the overarching goals of synodality. If I were inclined toward a more cynical view, I might say that the whole point of synodality is that there's no definition, and it can be readily deployed for whatever rhetorical purpose is necessary in the context. So I think that's the real challenge with any sort of exercise of leadership, is to make sure that first and foremost, we are seeking God's will.
Very, very beautifully said there, Father. Yeah, I think, I always kind of make a point as Catholics, every once in a while, the church is supposed to be obviously the voice of truth upon the world, and also to give clarity in moments of confusion. That being said, sometimes occasionally I feel like we get these marketing buzzwords, I'll call them, even though they have weight behind them, but sometimes it takes a second to figure it out. For example, you talked about the new evangelization and kind of tying it to the old evangelization, which for me has been the most clear, not just definition on paper, but also just actually in my life seeing the past few years. But I do remember very distinctly, I'm sure a lot of the audience also does, I grew up in a very spirit of the new evangelization church. We talked about it all the time, but there was nothing practical about it. There was no difference in how I think we approached the faith or anything growing up. Did that mean I was going to tell my friends to come to mass with me? Did that mean that I was going to educate myself, to have a deeper conversion as a Catholic? Nobody had that kind of thing. So sometimes I hear words for Catholics, we throw around all these sorts of terms and we never really define them. So it's good that we're making the attempt. And you're right, there have been synods previous. I've heard people describe the synodal church as a listening kind of church. And I know that some people were worried, depending on who you ask, but when Pope Leo on the Loggia talked about, kind of continuing a synodal sort of way, people went, uh-oh. But depending on how the Pope's going, he's kind of an interesting character so far, because he seems to have a very deep appreciation for maybe a more classical view of synods and, addressing the Byzantines first or something. So I'm always just waiting to see. But that word, I know, it has carried a lot of weight. Ironically, since again, you give 10 people, as you pointed out, in the room to say, what does synodality, this synodal way mean? You'll get 10 different opinions, which maybe is by design a little bit. I don't know.
I don't want to be too snarky with Trent, but yeah, man, when you find out, send us a note.
Yeah, let us know.
Because I'm kind of left hanging here myself.
Yep.